Hola, I am Gustavo Arango from the Department of Foreign Languages and Literatures, and I have the honor of representing the former School of Arts and Humanities at this year's Community of Scholars ceremony. Currently, I am in Colombia, the country where I was born, and I would like to talk about my achievements during the academic year 2017-2018. You probably have heard about the Colombian Nobel Prize winner Gabriel Garcia Marquez. He was the author of some of the greatest novels of the 20th century, 100 Years of Solitude and Love in the Time of Cholera. Garcia Marquez has been a role model for aspiring writers in Latin America. He was born in a very poor town in the Caribbean coast of Colombia and became the most successful writer in a country where writers traditionally belong to the ruling class. In 1965, Garcia Marquez was a little-known writer who had published without success a couple of novels and a collection of short stories. He was 38 years old and was almost ready to give up his dream of becoming a professional writer. But before accepting his defeat, he decided to write a novel he conceived when he was a teenager. The story of 7 generations of a family in the imaginary town of Macondo, with the tone his grandmother used to tell him stories when he was a child. 2 years later, after the publication of 100 Years of Solitude, Garcia Marquez became an international celebrity. A few months ago, the Princeton University Library released the correspondence between Garcia Marquez and his close friends, the Mexican writer Carlos Fuentes, during the time Garcia Marquez was writing this novel. I jumped at the opportunity, read the letters, and wrote the first article on the subject. The correspondence was a treasure of information. The letters were candid, revealing, and offered a privileged view of the difficulties, the doubts, and small victories of a very lonely man struggling to write a masterpiece. The article with excerpts from the letters was published by the literary magazine of the Mexican newspaper El Universal and has had a great impact among admirers and scholars devoted to the study of the life and works of the Colombian writers. The second work I would like to mention is a collection of essays, Vida y Milagros de una Lengua Muerta, Life and Miracles of a Dead Language, published here in Colombia by Universidad Pontificia Bolivariana. The essays were written over the last 15 years and cover a wide variety of authors and periods from the Spanish Golden Age to 21st century writers. The common thread for these essays is the origin of the words we use to refer, both in English and Spanish, to the written word. Every time we use the words letter or literature, we are taking as our source the Etruscan language, a dead language that still today remains a mystery for scholars. By the way, the word mystery has also an Etruscan origin, and my intention by using this reference in the book is to remind us that there are no final truths in arts and humanities, that some traces of mystery always remain in our scholarly work. It is a privilege to be a part of an academic community which values other languages and recognizes creative writing as a scholarly work. I'm happy to work for a college that appreciates and promotes the role of the arts and humanities in our society. Thank you, President Morris, Provost Mackin, and Dean Dunn for this honor. Thank you to my colleagues of the New School of Liberal Arts. Congratulations to the community of scholars.